Welcome to the Creator Academy. Working through some technical challenges here, but we are with you today to talk about AI and all the implications of it on content creation. We have a pretty incredible panel of creators today to talk about their thoughts on this topic, about how they're thinking about AI in their own content creation, how you can be thinking about AI, and what the future of it is as well for the overall content creation space and more broadly the gaming space as well, because this is going to be really significant moving forward, and it's something that everyone should be looking to integrate into their content today. Would love to introduce everyone, all of the creators that we have with us today. So we have Alvaro with us, who is a massive Spanish creator from the Supercell ecosystem. He's done over 1.7 billion views and has nearly 4.9 million subscribers. We have Judo Sloth, who is a Clash of Clans creator, also in the Supercell ecosystem covering Clash of Clans. He averages nearly 1 million views a video right now. We have Win Sandy with us, who is a FPS mobile creator, super experienced in his own right, nearly 1.5 million subscribers, as well as Powerbang with us, who has been one of the key innovators in the mobile space. Previously a FPS creator, still an FPS creator, but also moonlighting as the CEO and founder of AMG, who specializes in helping mobile creators grow, think about their business, and is really thinking about topics like this every single day. Would love to throw it to you guys and throw it to you, Powerbang, to really start us off here to talk about what even is AI. What are we here talking about today?
Thanks so much, Matt. Really appreciate you having me here. Again, thank you to Supercell for hosting the panel. Excited to hop into the discussion today with some of my longtime friends in this business, in this industry of content creation. And really, if you guys have been watching the news on Google, on Twitter, etc., you're seeing a lot of buzz lately about artificial intelligence, which is what AI stands for. And I'm really curious to jump into what some of these guys here today are doing in their content creation businesses, how they're thinking about artificial intelligence. Are they utilizing it? Do they think it's valuable? And ultimately, hopefully pulling back the curtain on some of the things that we're doing in our businesses to help us out. Like, how do we think about AI? All those types of things. So with that, would love to, I guess throw to Judo to kick things off here. I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on AI just in general, right? Like, do you find it scary? Do you find it useful, exciting? Like, what are you thinking about it?
Yeah, thanks, PB. Thank you as well, Supercell, for having me here. I'm looking forward to the chat. Honestly, I obviously have mixed opinions on it. I think everyone does. There should always be a level of skepticism, I guess, with technology such as this, but it is definitely something that you can't ignore, because if you do, I feel you just be left behind. So there are definitely tools that can help your workflow. I personally think a lot of them are kind of improving, but they're still getting there. But there are some that I will, kind of discuss that I personally think are very good. And I guess what I would preface this kind of chat with is that everyone will be able to use these differently. It's really just seeing how you can integrate them into your workflow and how you can best use them as a tool to help with your efficiency. And many of the stuff we discussed today are obviously helpful for us. They may or may not be for you. It's really just seeing what your, what your workflow is and how you can best utilize these to help you. So I guess that would be my answer there, PB.
It makes sense. I mean, Win, are you using AI right now at all in any capacity in your business?
Yeah, no, for sure. That definitely was something that I wanted to explore and see if there were ways to work it into my workflow. At first, it felt a bit clunky, and I wasn't sure exactly how to integrate it. But I'm finding, some natural ways here and there. I found that AI for me hasn't been this massive, game-changing tool. It may become that over time, but it's kind of settled for me in where, maybe I want to reword a script a little bit better, or just generate a script to get some inspiration and then take it from there, right? It's a good starting spot to begin with AI, but at the end of the day, I found that I still need to be a creator and I can't just have it do all the work for me, but it can really significantly cut down the time that takes a lot of brain power, to be creating all the time. And if you can leverage AI to come in and kind of fill those gaps so you can create a little bit faster and more efficiently, that's really where AI has begun to help me, in my day-to-day workflow. But I do use it a little bit, generative fill and Photoshop, we'll get into that. ChatGPT, generating, text out of nothing, we'll get into that as well today. But little things like that have helped quite a bit.
And I guess I got a question for Alvaro as well. I know you've always been kind of on the cutting edge with regards to tech and like what's coming next. I would imagine you've explored AI to some extent. Have you gotten into that at all? Have you incorporated any tactics at all of AI into your business?
Yeah, thank you, PB, for having me. I mean, and Supercell for having me here. Definitely, I do believe that AI it's like the next wave, and you have to explore it and to try to find like the best way to integrate AI in your regular workflow. But I do agree with my colleagues that every person will use AI in a different way, that the way that best fits with their process. But at the end, we are creators, and what you need is creativity. And for that, I mean, AI can help you, but will not fix all the problems or all the issues. So that's why I'm quite skeptical. That I know that the technology is still. I mean, AIs are still learning and so on, and we can discuss further. But yeah, I mean, I'm exploring AI and trying to integrate as much as I can in my business.
So for me, I would love to jump into kind of like the brass tacks here of AI, right? Like, so the way I approach artificial intelligence is, well, first let's rewind. I think a lot of people, when they looked at AI in the first place, there was a fear of, oh, this is going to take our jobs. This is going to replace humans. And I think creative positions were one of the things that were expected to be replaced last, because as you guys have mentioned, creativity is incredibly important to content creation and to making videos. But one of the things, interestingly enough, that I've seen kind of out there is that creative things are one of the first things to be affected. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's done effectively. Like, I watched a video from Casey Neistat that he was like, hey, what if AI made a script, told me what to do, and he just followed the steps of what AI said, and it was a bad video. And that was his point, right, as a true creative, was, hey, I really, I appreciate my own creative input and impact. So one of the things that I did right away was I look at AI as more of an assistant, right? Like, I'm the creative, I'm the one with the vision or the thing that I want to accomplish, but I also know that it would take time to hire somebody to actually assist me and get them up to speed and train them and tell them everything that I know and give them the necessary context, to be helpful, I guess. Whereas that's kind of what I've been doing with ChatGPT and other AIs is, they understand a lot of the context already in it. The things that they don't, I can give it to them and they get it right almost every time, which is really creepy, honestly. But I've been looking at AI as more of an assistant. I'm curious if any of you guys have, had a similar experience.
I mean, honestly, I think that AI it's just a tool or a feature that you can use or not. It's the same that happened with computers. That at the beginning, people might thought that okay, I mean, computers may take out all of our jobs, and it didn't. So, I mean, you can use computers for taking notes, for organize your agenda, your schedule. You can have a notebook as well. You can have both and combine. So I think with AI, it's just everyone's job to find the best tools that fits better with their workflow and their business, their creative process, etc. And I think that I agree that AI it's a great assistant, and it can deal with much of the boring or repetitive job that you or work that you have to do every day, so that you can have more time to focus on the really important job that it's unique and only you can do.
Makes sense. Judo, is there anything you're doing right now with regards to AI, like specific tools you're using? Like, how are you utilizing this in your business to kind of, I guess, make your life easier, as you kind of alluded to earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to kind of start going down the rabbit hole now, like everything, but I think there's, just picking up on your part of assistant, I think there are certain tools right now that I personally think are incredible, but they just don't fit into my content. And I think they're hard to integrate into gaming content, but many of you might have seen tools like video, cutting long form videos into shorts, or Autopod is a fantastic one which can cut between different camera angles. And I think those sort of tools are very good to assist you in talking head style videos. I think they're very hard to integrate into gaming videos. For me, I use mainly like ChatGPT and ChatGPT AI tools, like ones that are based off of ChatGPT. And I mainly use them to kind of validate what it is that I'm already doing. So for that reason, I have used them quite a lot, but I only kind of periodically use them to just check if there's anything else that I'm missing, because I think what AI is very good at, again, like I don't want to just talk for 5 or 10 minutes, so I'll kind of keep it quick and then I can go deeper if you want me to. But I think it's very good at giving it just masses of data, like unstructured data that we can't comprehend like what it means, and having it put it together and give us patterns that we can then read and understand, right? Like that's what I think the AI is very good at. Just feeding it lots of information and it can summarize that for you. And I use that to kind of validate certain things that I do.
What type of, you have any like specifics as far as like big data that you would pump in there to have it kind of go through? I mean, I can give you some examples too of how I'm using it right now on the creative side of things, and then also the efficiency side of things. Some of it's like content creation based, some of it is not. Some of it's, you know, on the business side of things, and curious if there's any like specifics that you have.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, I guess my master's degree back in my physical therapy days, I mean, this was only like 8 years ago. My thesis was a qualitative piece interviewing physical therapists. And essentially, I had to transcribe all of those interviews. I had to do a thematic analysis in order to pull out key themes, everything like that. That was only 8 years ago. And this kind of comes back to content in the sense that now what I do is essentially feed the AI, because I do think like ChatGPT and any of the AI bots, they're only as good as what you feed in. If you don't ask it the right prompts or don't feed it in the correct data, you're not going to get the right answer out. So there's obviously kind of, you know, ways of using it to help with your scripts and your titles and things, but I will just feed it my video transcript and feed it like all of the comments from the video. So it has my video transcript, it has all of the comments, and I will ask it to pull out the common themes, much like the thematic analysis I did with my thesis. But this literally takes minutes, right? Like it took me hours and hours back then when I did my degree. So I'd feed it the transcript, give it the comments, ask it for common themes. A lot of the time, you know, like I said, like I already know that stuff, but it might pop out something like, oh, this was, you know, a certain thing that has been said multiple times, and you can kind of go down that rabbit hole. Okay, like give me more information on that. Can you give me a specific example? You know, and then once it has all that context on your video, like the transcript, the comments, it has how viewers have perceived that, you can export your retention data and essentially just feed it your retention data and say, okay, cross-reference like what the transcript and what people thought with the retention of this video. Let me know your thoughts. And I always think if you ask questions to like ChatGPT, like specific questions, you always want to just keep the question very broad first, see what it gives you back, and then you can kind of nail down a question. So once you've kind of fed all of that data, see what it says, and then you might ask more specific questions. Okay, like tell me where people dropped off, what based on the comments that might have been for, and it has the transcript as well for like context. So it can then feed you information. And a lot of the time, again, that's just reaffirming what you're already doing, because you already should be looking at retention graphs, looking at patterns across data, see all the dips, like see if there's commonalities between them. But often the AI can sometimes see patterns that you can't see, and it can also reaffirm that your estimate as to why people have left the video is kind of reaffirmed with the comments and things like that. So I think that's the main use case that I've been using ChatGPT for. And I just find it really interesting.
Yeah, no, I hadn't even thought to go about it in that way. For me, one of the things that I like to do, because for me, I feel like execution is a strength as far as like I can get in and make stuff, and I understand how to make something happen. But for me, I think creativity and brainstorming and coming up with different topic ideas is more on the weakness side of things, where I'm trying to come up with these neat ideas. I'm more of a, hey, give me an amazing idea and I'll tell you how to make it better. Like those are some of my strengths just as an individual. So what I have used it for is on the brainstorming side, and it could be incredibly broad, like you were saying, to hopefully spark ideas. And I'm not saying, hey, let's use AI to, just fully plagiarize, a YouTube career. But if it sparks an idea, like for example, give me 20 viral Clash of Clans video ideas, and you can tell ChatGPT to act as a famous YouTuber or something to give it context to what the responses actually are. And it's really interesting. I'd say that maybe 16 out of those 20 videos are going to be just like, they're not going to be great, but maybe 4 of them have some substance, and you might have to make some tweaks to figure out, what it is. Or it might just give you a spark or a thought of something else. And so for me, I think kind of not supercharging, but like just starting the snowball down the hill, if you will, to the creativity. And then once I get going, it's like, okay, I think I'm onto something here, and I can start molding it to, to do a little bit better. So that's one of the ways that I've been doing it. Wayne, have you done any brainstorming or like the front end of projects, or has it been more on like the graphic side of things? I heard you mention generative fill with Photoshop. What's your experience been like?
Yeah, really, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's really about plugging it into where I can work a little bit faster. As someone that tries to really upload daily, it's a grind, right? You wake up and you're like, okay, we got to get a video out today, right? And if something can cut down your process just 5-10 minutes every day and make that, a little bit shorter, it makes your life easier. For me, I've done all the brainstorming stuff like you've mentioned. I've typed in, give me 20, viral video ideas for this game or that game. And like you said, maybe 80% of them aren't that great, but it does spark some inspiration where maybe it gave you a title for like a challenge video and you're like, wait, that actually reminds me, I wanted to try something here, or maybe I can rework this into an actual challenge that I know my audience would like. I actually do have a funny example of how I did use AI. I generated the lyrics for a rap song about a game I was playing called PUBG, and I pulled up a beat on stream, and it was just kind of, like looping this beat, and I did the rap song like on the fly, and my chat loved it. It was so funny, and we clipped it out and made a video out of it, right? And that was just something that was kind of an easy way to, get a video, where before ChatGPT, I would have had to have sat down and like wrote my entire like, rap song. But it was just kind of a fun little gimmick, but it was, a way to use ChatGPT in a pretty harmless way.
So you mean you're not Eminem? Was your chat in on the joke? Did they know that you were using AI to generate that? Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. That's one of the things that like you can, that's a personal choice. I would think is like, hey, do I even let people know that I'm using this to help? Some people have made content out of the fact that it is, AI. Alvaro, have you done anything with regards to imagery at all? Wynn mentioned generative fill. Have you had a chance to play around with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Adobe, Photoshop, and even improving like the voice and the audio of the videos, I mean, the AI makes a great advantage. And sometimes, you record something and by mistake you are using the wrong microphone or whatever, but the video is great, and you are afraid that you may lose the entire footage. Sometimes it's fixable and it's doable, but it's really hard and really time consuming for yourself. But with AI, you can fix that, for example. And right now, and I'm seeing many people from abroad on the chat, and right now I'm exploring using AI to make subtitles because my videos are in Spanish, so to make subtitles to have different languages, mainly English, and also to voice covering like the videos, because I mean it will be very difficult to do it by myself, even though I can script the same video both in English and Spanish and try to record again. I think that it's better to just have a voiceover, and it's approaching quite good to an acceptable result. I mean, still not there, because with gaming you use many specific words that the AI still needs to learn. And sometimes in Spanish, for example, and I'm sure that in other languages we use a lot of English wording to define some concepts of gaming. But in the near future, I think that it will be a easy way to reach a wider audience.
Yeah, I looked into all of that as well, because I was exactly the same as you, Alvaro. I was like, if we can share our content with the world, I think that would be incredible. And I remember when I researched into all of the that side of things, I also like to just to push back on it a little bit as to like why I didn't continue down the rabbit hole. I felt like my content is at like a certain standard, and I didn't know whether converting and just having like a Microsoft or a Siri voice, then, because that's all the AI can kind of do right now. I felt like it kind of lowered the quality of my videos. And what you've got to think as well is when you do convert to those other languages, those viewers have to enjoy that as well. And I remember when I researched it, there was a lot of, like certain words can take longer to pronounce in different languages. So you also need to get the speed correct. And it was just an absolute minefield. There was actually someone that wrote a script where it could speed up and slow down the different languages, which was really cool. But I kind of predicted that YouTube would eventually do this anyway. And then a couple of months ago, Google kind of shared it at the developer conference. And then at VidCon last week, they also shared it. I think it will be, honestly, a number of years before it's integrated. But, I mean, I think in the future, we can look forward to when we upload the videos, YouTube will just naturally convert it like, it does with the closed captions. But I totally agree with you. I just wanted to throw in my kind of apprehensiveness to that and why I kind of stopped researching it as well, because I think it is a really interesting topic.
Yeah, it was the same conclusion I got. I mean, sorry.
No, all good. I want to tag along on this as well, because I had similar ideas, right? Where it was like, when we talk about our content, we're speaking typically to those that speak our language, right? We can't reach global scales for the most part. And, when you look at the Mr. Beasts of the world that are basically dubbing their videos in all of these different languages, it's really interesting. But they're actually paying human beings and actors in these other regions to basically become Mr. Beast. And there are some decent services out there right now. And we're at the beginning part of this wave of AI. And things are getting better and more efficient, more effective at an alarming rate. But I've tested like 11. I believe it's 11.io, which is a service that basically takes scripts like text and turns it into voice, reading, or like reading in your voice essentially. So you could read a script to it in your own voice. It records that. And then from then on out, you can train it to read anything in your voice, which is obviously creepy and can, there's a lot of nefarious things that I can think of that this might be used for. But I ran some initial tests and I was like, you know what? It sounds pretty good. Like to the point where if you didn't know me, had never seen me before, you may or may not notice the first time through that it's artificially generated. So with that, as it gets better, I'm like, okay, is there a way to actually read this out in another language, in my own voice, and have it be kind of on beat to where you could dub it, but instead of having to hire an actor or pay for somebody else to translate, it's all literally done, for minimal fee. Like if you're talking ChatGPT, it's like a $20 a month subscription, I think, for the premium version. Which is what I'm kind of using. But yeah, to have my own voice read back to me on something I never said was very strange, but ultimately it was good enough to where I was like, okay, this could be something that's useful in the future. So I don't know if you guys have played around with that at all, but I was impressed, but also it's not at the point where I would also fully be like, okay, just read this for me and I'm going to do whatever else I'm going to do. It's not at that level yet either.
I've done that. It's definitely creepy. I've uploaded a picture of myself and then I put a script and I tried to do my voice. And of course it does like the weird AI where you can tell the head is like, hello everybody, welcome back to another video. And it kind of tries to like mirror these movements, and it's definitely robotic, but it is scary, and to the point where, like you mentioned, we saw that the like creative industries were getting impacted first. I mean, we were seeing Drake songs, right? Like at the top of Spotify charts that were not even written by Drake. I was watching AI generated SpongeBob episodes on YouTube the other day that was being generated in real time with the characters walking around and talking in their voices, you know, generated from the show. It's really the cutting edge. It's the Wild West right now of AI, but it is a reminder that we do have to be careful and always take a second look now at what we see and what we hear on the internet, because it's getting scary close to not being able to decipher what's real and what's AI.
Yeah, and
Another
I
thing-
wanted to. Oh, sorry. I figured this
Oh,
would
go
happen
ahead,
with
Judo.
4 of us. I wanted to. That's an important point that Win just mentioned that I wanted to assure I mentioned in this as well. Is just to anybody that is kind of starting out trying to use AI, just be careful of like what you are uploading. If it's kind of personal stuff or even like NDA stuff, right? Like the AI is not. It's you don't know what they're going to do with that information, basically. Like they're sharing it across the internet and stuff, so like just be very careful of like what it is you are uploading. And I just feel for anyone that is potentially starting with AI, just wanted to give that message at some point during the conversation.
Hugely important, Judo. I mean, I'm not going to mention it because I am aware of some NDA type of things that have made it to the internet. And it's like, you have to understand that AI essentially is the internet, and it's combining basically all these like networks, right, worldwide, where this data becomes accessible at the ask of a question from someone in some corner of the globe. So just be careful about putting anything sensitive, anything maybe financial that you don't want out there. It can certainly help you, but anything that you're going to disclose, just assume that's a secret that will eventually leak. So yeah, use caution for sure when using AI. Wanted to talk a little bit too about like the use in scripting, not necessarily saying, hey, ChatGPT or AI, generate a script for me, which certainly could be useful to kind of help with an outline if you give it some parameters. But one of the things that I found, especially for viewer retention, Judo, like in an intro, it's really important to get to the point in your videos, like deliver at the very top, the hook, like why are people going to watch? What are you doing? Setting the stakes, all of that. I've found that ChatGPT is moderately effective at trimming out excess words, fluff, getting to the point faster. So I've found that maybe giving it an intro script and saying, hey, make this more concise, or say the exact same thing, but you have 10 seconds or something to that effect, has been decent to give me ideas on how I can be more deliberate with how I'm entering a video. Have you done anything like that in your practice at all?
I would say similar. Like, I don't want to sound like, against it or anything, but I feel like I've developed my craft for, a number of years, and I kind of understand my audience and what it is I'm trying to achieve with the video, and kind of how to do an intro, right? Like how to emotionally connect with the viewer. So that I don't necessarily do that, but I think specifically, for creators that are starting out, that is definitely something that you should be working on. Like the first minute of your video is absolutely the most important for viewer retention. So it's definitely something that can, again, be a tool to help you learn and help to, just open things up. On that token, though, I would say, many people use ChatGPT for like titles. You could feed it your intro and say, like, give me a title based on this first minute. And then that the title is, feeding directly into the content. Because if your title's too far off left field, like even if you think it's a good title, but then you don't discuss that in the first minute, then, people are going to leave. It's not that effective of a title. So you can feed it your script to get ideas of titling. In answer to your question, though, in terms of scripting, not necessarily for the script, but what I would say is, like, once I have fed it data in terms of the video transcript, like tons and tons of comments, like just feed it hundreds and hundreds of comments. Once you've got those patterns, it then has the data almost like your viewer, right? So you can then ask it, what would they like in a video? What is, like, I don't know, if you're doing Clash Royale content, like based on all of these comments, what's their favorite card? Like, what do they like about this card? And it has all of the data in terms of all of those comments that it can then give you ideas to implement into your script. So with regards to scripting, that's what I would say I kind of have asked questions about it for, but not necessarily me personally, like writing a script. But I guess that probably answers your question.
And with that, really love sort of the discussion about the exploration that each of you have sort of taken of your own path of, okay, where can AI be useful to me? but also what are the limitations of it? Where should I just be relying on my own experience? For a newer content creator that's up and coming, how should they be thinking about their exploration of AI? How should they be thinking about where should I start? Where do I try things out? Where do they even start to be able to tackle this? Because it can be a very overwhelming space.
It's a good question. I think from my perspective, what Judo just mentioned with regards to his personal experience, and I know from watching Judo's content, the man is an expert at crafting scripts and viewer retention and setting the hook and really executing well. So it's highly unlikely that he'll need to lean on even an assistant in real life to tell him, hey, what should I do from a vision perspective to make this video intro effective? So that's also something that he's not likely to lean on AI for either, if you were to treat it like an assistant. So for me, I look at somebody that's up and coming that maybe don't understand the best practices of content creation. First and foremost, shameless plug, check out the Creator Academy within Supercell to get a lot of those tips and tricks to help speed along your growth as a creator. But ask questions, right, of what the most important aspects are of a YouTube video, and you can get actual answers from AI to help you along in the process. But I feel like if you ask questions to help make introductions brief, concise, to the point, and really tell a story, I think you can ask questions of it from a storytelling perspective as well. And this is assuming you are completely ignorant with regards to what does it take to build a story. I think it can start to help you along the general direction that it may not be perfect, it may not be perfectly best case scenario, but I think you can start collecting data similar to what Judo has recommended to analyze and figure out, okay, what am I doing that is actually impactful? Can I feed it information such as comments, such as numbers as far as viewer retention to help guide an opinion? And that's one thing that I've also found, similar to what Judo mentioned a moment ago. Everything that I've ever told it inside of a particular chat room, it remembers forever without fail. And so if you want to go back to something and ask a question, you can do that, and it's like having somebody with a photographic memory that just doesn't forget, and that's super, super useful for me. So to answer the question briefly, TLDR, start asking it questions about what you potentially should be doing as a beginning creator, and make sure to say what your goals and objectives are. I want to become, a massive success on YouTube, gain 1 million subscribers, like whatever the case may be. Tell it your goals and your ideal outcome, and ask it questions to say, hey, how can I get there? So those are some places that I would start personally. Curious to hear if there's anybody else that has opinions, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. Using AI to improve and be a better version of yourself and create better content for your audience. So you can rely on AI your entire competitive advantage or the thing that makes your channel and your content unique. But you can use AI and the tools and all the data analysis that it can do for you to improve your content and to do best practices. In some way, all the advices and tips about how to be successful on YouTube or create better content, etc. I mean, everything sounds super obvious. It's like everybody knows what is the rule book, what you have to do on your YouTube videos. I mean, first minute is super important, retention, engage with your audience, how a thumbnail should be, how a title should be. I mean, we know everybody the theory, but in the end, some people do that or implement that in a better way than others. And I think that you should use, or at least that's what I'm doing, just to use AI to find new ways and new things that may improve my content and maybe it will make me create better content for my audience. So it's not like the solution of everything. Is just a tool to improve yourself.
For sure. Yeah, I would pretty much. Sorry, I keep doing the same thing, Powerbang. It's always on you as well. Yeah, I was going to say a very similar thing, actually, in terms of my advice for a beginner would very much be just ask it the beginner questions that you have. And I think what you mentioned before, PB, about titles is very important. If you have a video title, and one thing that is massively important as you're learning is just talking to your peers, talking to other creators, sharing ideas, getting feedback on things. If should you be starting out and you don't necessarily have that network yet, you can ask the AI for that stuff. Give it your title, rewrite this title in 20 different ways. You've probably, may have even heard these techniques already. Make it more intriguing, make it shorter. Like, you can use it in a way to help you crafting your title. Like you said, your scripts as well. Whatever it is that you need to help with the video, how do I make this script more engaging? Like, it'll be able to give you some ideas. A lot of them will be, irrelevant, but you never know when you might then get that golden nugget. Even if it gives you 10 ideas and only one of them is relevant, well, then that's useful. But I guess the other thing I would say, like on the flip side, like I said, I kind of use it to affirm what I'm already looking at. And I would say I'm kind of using it less and less at the moment, because you also have to think of how much time it's taking you. And as a beginner, we all kind of gradually learn throughout content creation, and you learn through doing. And if you're constantly just, using ChatGPT or whatever to, try and, make a better title or like whatever it is, you actually need to assume you're putting the time into creating the content. And for me, that's the main reason that I'm not really using it that much at the moment. Obviously, I've mentioned the use cases that I primarily do use AI. But even now, I don't use it that much because it, let's say that takes 2 hours, that's 2 hours I could be working on the video myself and making it better. So I would also just give the caution of, you need to be developing your skill sets in many different areas. Use it to help you with kind of basic stuff like that when you're starting out. And then once you get into a system, you can see where it's going to be integrated into your workflow best. But you also need to not be using it as a crutch and not focusing on it too much, because ultimately you need to be doing and actually learning through doing, if that makes sense. So that's what I would also say on it. And I think Wynn's probably the only one that hasn't talked to the chat from a beginner perspective. I don't know if he has anything else to add to what we've already said.
I think real quickly, AI, you could definitely use it to speed up your learning. You can definitely learn things faster than ever. A lot of things we've talked about are like YouTube transcripts. Let's say there's a quick tips and tricks video that's maybe it's like 15 minutes long, but you don't have time to watch it. You can download that transcript, throw it in a ChatGPT and say, hey, can you summarize this for me in like 90 seconds? And it will just compute that. And then you can quickly read like the Spark notes, right? Like I mentioned, someone mentioned in chat, like video editing was a tough thing for them to learn. But maybe like if you're trying to catch up in a very competitive, YouTube ecosystem in 2023, maybe downloading transcripts from many different like tutorial videos on Premiere or any video editing software, you can kind of get the Spark notes of those. And then you can take what would maybe be like 2 hours of watching these YouTube videos and condense it down to a quick like 10 to 15 minute read. Now, obviously that's not like going to be a 100% solution, but these are often ways that you can have a better starting point than just like typing into YouTube, like how do I edit a YouTube video, right? Like that's going to be a better starting spot for you. So you can take a lot of information and condense it down and help you speed up like your learning process.
And with that learning process as well, we actually had a question in chat from one of the viewers asking, it feels like every YouTube growth expert is now selling AI prompts for creators. Do you guys think these are worth paying for? I'm incredibly skeptical. Now, with that, it's the thinking of, can you shortcut the process? Can you shortcut some of the learning with AI? Can you get more value out of it potentially by buying these prompts? What are your thoughts on that?
Anyone want to take this first? I have thoughts, but go for it.
Yeah, I think I probably have the same thoughts as you, PB. I would never buy one of those. I know my process. I know what I want to use it for. And again, I don't want to sound, I just don't think there would be a prompt that they could sell me that would improve my personal process. Yeah, I would just be very skeptical of that, because you know your process. And I would almost guarantee that they're probably not the best of prompts. And just discussing with your fellow creators, like what are you prompting it? What are you asking it? That's the best way to learn. Yeah, I'm assuming PB has the same response, but I would never look to get one of those. I think there's a lot of YouTube strategists out there at the moment that have never actually made a decent YouTube video, and that's just how it is. I think you have to look at the information they are giving and see whether it's useful to you. But if you're actually going to pay for something, you want to ensure that you're vetting whoever that person is.
I think the underlying...
I'm not going to go next. Go for it, Win.
I was just going to say, I think this really gets to a good point that we haven't mentioned yet. And the underlying issue here is that, not issue, but prompting itself is a skill. So if you're going to use AI, you need to know how to give good inputs. And I'm not sure if I would pay for prompts, but you can definitely engineer better prompts. So it's something you need to learn. One tool we actually haven't talked about a lot so far is Midjourney, and that's where you type in something and it just creates this image, and it's a pretty insane tool. And that was one of the first AI things that I used. And I would type in something random like a dragon in the sky, and it would make it, right? But then I would look at what other people were making, and they were like a dragon in the sky, photorealistic, like watercolor style, but like Van Gogh, but then give me like surreal elements, and then it was like, and they had these insane prompts and they knew how to use the tools within Midjourney to craft some of the most insane images. And I was like, I had no idea you could even type in those kind of inputs. So definitely knowing how to do prompts. I was messing around with certain ChatGPT prompts where you tell it like, you are a personal assistant bot. You are engineered to help me complete tasks faster in a YouTube landscape. Like, you can kind of curate how the bot will operate, and all of that is based on the prompts. So whether or not I would pay for it, you might be able to do a little bit of additional digging on the internet and find prompts for free, or just learning about how to prompt, because it's really one of those skills that once you know how to do it, then you can just do it your own, and you don't have to try to buy a prompt or something like that. But definitely prompting is a big skill within AI.
I would love to chime in now, because that was kind of the point that I was going to make. In your seat, Judo, with your skill set, your experience, and the success that you have, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying and how you would apply it to your particular business. But looking at through the lens of somebody that's trying to add to the skill set and get to a point where they're achieving some realm of success, I look at this as potentially in real life as finding a mentor, right? Or somebody that can help shortcut the process of, getting the information that you need. I think to get a great output on something, you need great inputs. And to go along with what Win was saying, with the prompts, they make all the difference in the world as far as what kind of quality you're going to get out of ChatGPT or anything else for that perspective. So I think in the case of the gurus that are out there, right? The specialists that are trying to sell you something. I think it's important to be aware that it is a trend. It's a fad right now. That doesn't mean that it's going to go away or not be useful or effective, but there's a lot of people that are going to try to hop on the bandwagon right now to make a quick buck utilizing AI as the next wave, and they've got all the secrets, right? So that's important to know right off the bat. But what I will say is if you can find a way or a trusted source that understands how to prompt, or that's a skill that maybe they can ask questions in a better way than you can, I think it's absolutely worth paying for. But that's a big if, right? And you have to understand that the first time you pay an expert, so to speak, you might not get the help or the advancement that you're looking for, and it might take a few different investments. But I think that one of the most important things that we can do as creators and human beings beyond that is to invest in ourselves and invest in educating and learning and becoming better at whatever it is we choose to do. One example that I have with regards to prompts, even in business, I've done this where it's like I might want a different perspective on something, but I don't necessarily want to share or have a personal conversation. But it's like I also am trying to work out where things might lead. And so it's like, hey, you know what? I want you to act as though, you're Steve Jobs and mentor me from a business perspective. And then, there's this interesting conversation and dialogue that happens as if it were actually Steve Jobs. It's very interesting. And granted, I'm aware that Steve is unfortunately passed and it's not actually him. But the conversation tone changed drastically from what it could have been with a simpler prompt, right? So to summarize, I think that obviously it takes the right advice, the right prompts, the right ideas. But if you actually stumble on somebody that can effectively ask questions, you're now understanding the framework. And in the future, you have the tools and the skills to be able to frame your questions and your prompts in a way that gets you better outcomes. And I think ultimately that's what we're all looking for. So answer differs some, but I totally see where you're coming from as well, Judo.
I would love to kind of just briefly expand, because I feel like my response was very much to be very quick and summarized, right? And then I don't disagree with what you're saying of like paying for a prompt. Exactly what I said earlier. You're only going to get the information out that you put in. From my experience at the moment, I mean, I spend a lot of money on, educators and consultancy fees and stuff like that. But I just feel at the moment, for anybody that's a beginner looking at purchasing like prompts, there's a huge, like you said, there's a huge amount of people right now just trying to make a quick buck. And that was kind of my point, that I personally would not recommend like diving into that right now, because chances are it is going to be very hard to find someone that is legit and will sell you like prompts that will help your business. I'm not saying that you can't, and if you did, it's obviously valuable. I would honestly go to a lot of the free YouTube educators. Many of them have Discord servers with feedback channels. Many of those Discord servers have kind of areas where people share prompts. I would honestly say that is probably a better route to go. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just feel I was maybe very short in my answer of like giving people a warning, I guess. But I don't disagree with what you're saying.
It's a valid warning for sure. I agree wholeheartedly with the warning. There's a lot of people out there that are probably, more of a predatory way of how they can self-serve, and I totally get that. What about you, Alvaro?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do agree with your opinions, and I think another great way to use AI or to know what to buy and what not to buy is just to ask other creators and try to contact them and say, I mean, that's something that we have done in the past, hey, how do you live stream? How do you what camera do you use? I mean, you have legit people around that may help you. I mean, maybe you cannot reach Mr. Beast to know how they script their videos, but everybody in their level, I mean, they can reach a good amount of creators or friends that may help you with different prompts and stuff they are doing with AI.
And now we've talked a lot about the value that AI can provide, almost acting as a kind of team member for you, acting as a graphic designer in the case of Midjourney, acting as a data analyst, looking at comments, acting as a just brainstorming collaboration partner. With this, do you think that at all helps shortcut creators' early journey, where they don't have a team around them to help support them with their content creation, where they really are on their own? Does this accelerate someone's ability to grow, and does it sort of level the playing field potentially for a lot of creators that don't have the kinds of resources to deploy towards their content creation, where they are much more of a solo act?
Who wants that one first?
I mean, I think it depends on what it is that you're looking to get, right? I think the where my mind goes with your question is thumbnails. But again, in gaming, that's not something that is helpful to me, and I doubt it's helpful for anyone watching, because like generative fill, for example, it doesn't have like Supercell IP assets, right? So like it's not going to help you in that regard. But there are some pretty impressive AI generated thumbnails for people that make like in real life content. And there are definitely examples I've seen where people have used Midjourney to create a fantastic thumbnail that they just wouldn't have been able to do before. So that's kind of where my mind goes with it. Not helpful for me, but for some, absolutely, yeah.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Alvaro.
Yeah, no, I think that for gaming it's not that useful, because the things in which you can take a great advantage of AI, I mean, it's not truly useful still, because AIs can learn. I mean, they could eventually learn Supercell IPs, and you may integrate their knowledge into your thumbnails. But I think that it may help a little bit to level up things. But after all, I think YouTube, it's pretty democratic. I mean, everybody can start creating videos, and you don't need that much stuff to start, or that much investment. in that way. I mean, even just with your cell phone, you can start creating videos on YouTube. So yeah, it may help a little bit, but not that much as people think that hey, I have AI, so I will be a successful YouTuber.
Wayne, you got anything on this one?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely can help accelerate, but I mean, AI hasn't, I feel like, been as big of a wave as we anticipated. Like, we always freak out, think it's going to replace everybody's job, every single process, but it really hasn't. And at the end of the day, you can use it to supplement your learning, but you still need to be learning. I don't think a creator could have really long-term success if they were doing everything with AI. Like, eventually, like, if you're going to spend that much time in Photoshop just using generative fill, you might as well learn Photoshop, right? Like, it's going to be a better tool for you if you still have that underlying base knowledge. If you're an expert in Photoshop, I would argue you can, utilize AI even better than a beginner, right? Because a beginner, they don't know what they don't know. Just because they can draw a box on the canvas and say, generate a dragon or generate a giant or something. If that's their only skill, they're really leaving still a lot on the table for all of those other tools that Photoshop has had for years. So I would say use it to supplement your learning, not replace it.
That's huge. For me, like, I would love to dive in before we are out of here today on some of the tools specifically and kind of how we get to that. We'll hit that shortly. But, for me as a beginner, I think it can level the playing field to an extent, right? It can raise, I think, the floor of where things are at right now. I think it can provide some of the basics that maybe help you level up, like your concepts on how to create content. I think there are definitely limitations, though, when it comes to the ceiling. It doesn't mean that every creator out there is just automatically, magically able to create like optimal content, etc. But as a creative, so, it's really important to make sure that we maintain our own personality, our own charisma, our own character. That's what really people subscribe for, right? It's your authenticity. It's how unique you are as an individual, because anybody can just watch content on a game or, a particular topic. So I think that's important to keep in mind and make sure that, you're focusing on. But really, I think AI has given, for the first time, the opportunity to really curate the whole internet, right? Everything that's out there right now, just, hey, boil this down to the best advice you could possibly give, and then help me execute on that particular advice, which as a beginning creator, I think can give you almost a better shot at maybe getting some initial early traction than maybe just stumbling across an idea yourself, which could take longer. The process of learning and gaining some of that education is certainly important. But I think just education in general and how smart or intelligent somebody is just a function of how fast can they learn, and that new information, how fast can that change their behavior. So that's something from me I think AI can certainly help with, but ultimately, again, it's still very much a creative industry that we as creators really are fully in charge of, and I don't want everyone out there watching to be like, oh yeah, we'll just type some prompts in to ChatGPT and we'll get 1 million views and call it a day. And it's certainly not like that at this point. So with that, would love to dive into some of the specifics with regards to like tools and what we've kind of been using. For me, I think if I had to throw out some that I've personally used that I feel are kind of like best in class from a text standpoint, ChatGPT, like just being able to have a conversation with a bot, more or less, that AI I think is incredible when it comes to text. There are free versions of that available, but to get the best of the best from a model perspective and like the most intelligent and human-like responses, ChatGPT 4 is the model you would want. I believe that's around a $20 subscription. For images, Wynn mentioned Midjourney, and that is currently based out of Discord, which if you just look up Midjourney on Google, go to the Discord, and then you can essentially direct message the Midjourney bot, type /imagine, and then you give it a prompt. And for example, I just, while we were sitting here, gave it a prompt of an epic battle scene from Clash of Clans. It's surprising what it came up with. And again, you have to be careful about like utilizing the incorrect IP, but maybe if you were trying to, create a generic scene behind you in a thumbnail, it might be able to work. So Midjourney certainly more helpful for IRL type of things, but to invent imagery from scratch, it's got to be leading the industry right now from an image standpoint. And then from voices, I like 11 the best. I've used a couple of them, but 11 for me is like the most realistic. And I believe you can find that at 11 Labs or 11.io. I'm not sure. Google, again, would be the best way to grab that one. But those are probably my 3 top AI tools, and I'm still working on content consumption with regards to like scripting and what the best tools are for that, or like digesting scripts, like what Judo was saying. But those 3 are ones that I personally use and find very helpful. So we be curious if any of you guys have specific tools that are not ChatGPT, Midjourney, or 11.
Do you want me to go next, or don't want to jump in again, PB? Oh, Alvaro?
No, it's okay. I was just going to mention that for ChatGPT, I mean, with the subscription, there are a bunch of different plugins right now that, and you can dive into like the store to find the best plugin or it's like the best app that may fits better with your workflow and all your stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think that's all the ones you mentioned. I mean, that's a good starting point. Maybe for the subtitles for non-English speakers that wants to reach other languages. I'm using Submagic. You can Google it, and it's doing pretty good. But also ChatGPT may work as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
what about you, Win?
I think the only one that you haven't mentioned, but we've talked about before, is just the generative fill in Photoshop, and it's currently in the beta. So if you have the Adobe Creative Cloud kind of suite, you can go in and find like the latest Photoshop. It is like a separate program, given that it's a beta, and it's a simple, like, you can draw a box in an empty space and say like create this. One of the most practical applications for me was I was creating a thumbnail. I had like a really cool background scene. I had it lined up with my face and the text where I wanted it, but in the way that I had arranged it, it didn't go all the way to the end of the canvas. So I just drew a box on that empty space and said, hey, just keep it going, and like it generated with the same colors and style. Like the grass kept going, the sky kept going. It kind of generated a few buildings that were like on the other side of the thumbnail. It's pretty crazy, and it can take into context all of your layers, like my face, the text, all that stuff. But it's not perfect. I drew a box on my mouth, and I was like, maybe what if I like try to whiten my teeth a little bit, and then it gave me like 3 rows of crazy deformed teeth, and I'm like, yeah, let's not do that. Like it's still a work in progress, but it's a lot of trial and error right now. AI doesn't work every time, but if you keep trying, what's great about a lot of different AI is that when you ask it to generate something, Midjourney, for example, and generative fill, it gives you options. Midjourney, for example, will give you 4 different renders. You can then pick which one of those that you want to see variations of, or upscale it to be a higher resolution. And same with generative fill in Photoshop. It gives you 3 different renders, so you can kind of cycle through them and see the different options. Delete it, try again. You can and generative fill, by the way, is also a prompt-based technology. There's a little text box where it tells you to type in what you want. So again, it all comes back to prompting.
Judo, we'll go to you, but before we do, just wanted to mention that Midjourney is free to start trying and using, but to use some of the more advanced features, it's a small subscription fee as well. I think that's the model that most of these have adopted. It's like, hey, use us, try us out. You can do these basic things, but if you want to do things in large volume or faster, so basically more and faster, then you pay a nominal fee, which is typically in the $10 to $20 a month range. So try things. That's the best advice I can give, is try it, see if you like it. Is it helpful for you? And if it is, like, figure out if $10 a month or $20 a month is worth the time savings that you're going to get or the value add. So with that, Judo, go ahead on the previous topic.
Yeah, apologies. I've been kind of going like this, looking at the screen in terms of how we've been talking, when I should have just let everyone, intermingle. I totally agree, Powerbang. I think there's most of the AI, you're going to get the best tools when you pay for it, right? But that's where, just trying them out for free. Obviously, we can give you some advice of what we use, but it's always based on you. So I do think video that I mentioned before, I think that's the best one I've seen to cut long form videos to shorts. It mainly works with like talking head style videos, like newsworthy type stuff. It's not as good with like gaming content. I personally don't use it, but with researching, that's the best one I've seen for that people could use. Autopod, I think, is amazing if you if you are doing a talking head type video. It can do a lot of the cuts for you. And I also think that AI is going to be built into most of the platforms. You are using AI right on YouTube here. So there's a lot of things that are just built in, like generative fill. The generative fill is actually, they're hoping to add it to Premiere Pro as well. There is a tool, I'd have to find what it's called, but it can cut out any silences in the video. That's also really useful. And like Alvaro said, a lot of plugins for ChatGPT. I don't use ChatGPT as much, but the plugins, you have to buy like tokens in order to use them. My favorite is Harper, where it can basically read any text on a web page and like import that into the bot. But yeah, there's just so many. If you go on the ChatGPT one, you'll see all of the different ones, and you can have a look at what you think's going to be, best for you. But if not, you could just use ChatGPT itself or Google Bard or anything like that to do a lot of the prompting which we've been discussing. And you can manually paste stuff in as well. You don't need the plugins. It just obviously kind of helps you save time as well.
Sure. Really quickly, for the viewers, we'll put a lot of the resources that have been referenced by everyone on this call in the description of this stream, as well as kind of in the description of any Creator Academy course that pops up subsequently. But for Judo, you mentioned video. It's not spelled like the normal video. I think it's VIDYO.AI.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and then Harpa is like HARPA. I think AI as well for that one.
Yeah.
So again, we'll put a link to all this stuff, but just wanted to make it easier for you guys to find it. Some of these things that we have mentioned on the call. So again, I'll throw it to you, Matt.
And with that, we will look to wrap things up here. Massively appreciate all of your time. Powerwang, Alvaro, and Sandy, Judo, thank you so much for joining us here. I think this conversation was really incredible. Hopefully we'll have more AI resources down the road too as a part of Creator Academy. If you are a part of that, keep an eye out for those. If you're interested in any specific topics, we're happy to explore doing deep dives in them. Just let us know what you're looking for. And we'll be having more of these panels in the future, exploring really cool topics like these and bringing more incredible guests back to the table. So thank you for joining us. And with that, we will say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, chat.
Thank you.